Ok. Can you please? Okay. Okay. So we will start. Good afternoon and greetings to all participants in this event. We have in this moment only people online, and I want to start by saying thank you to all my co-editors and co-authors, without whom it would not have been possible to write this book. I also want to give special thanks to the keynote speakers that accepted the challenge of sharing their knowledge about resilience with us. Also, my thanks to Springer Nature editor, Dr. Prashanth Mahagaonkar, who believed in our ability to work together and have success. Springer marketing team did a fantastic job, and today our book has dozens of downloads in all the world. Finally, my thanks to my university, Instituto Universitário de Lisboa, and my research center, DINÂMIA'CET-Iscte, Center for the Study of Socioeconomic Change and the Territory, who gave me all the support I need for the launch of this book. Before to start this presentation, it's important to say that this presentation is take place at a critical time, a time of pandemic, a time of war, a time of transformation of global society that requires resilience. But why publish this book? This book is a contribution to discussion about resilience, because in recent years, resilience has become a buzzword as it is cited regarding climate emergency, disaster management, impact of digital transformation, the COVID-19 global economic crisis, and more recently, the war in Europe. Politicians and decision makers from all sectors refer to resilience as a keyword for managing complex disturbances in society. Among institutional policies and plans in the international community, technologies for anticipation, recovery, and adaptations are emerging within the framework of resilience. But what is resilience? How can we benefit from integrating digital transformation in this framework? And in what areas might it be most relevant? We invited some of the world's leading experts in resilience to participate in this book and discuss possible answers to these questions. And at the end of the book, we concluded that we had only opened a small response window because much remains to be written and examined about this issue, and each chapter of this book would become a complete book itself. The editors of this book are convinced that effectively resilience is the master key for the future. However, people are at the base of any process of resilience, and therefore, only by placing people at the center of transformation can we aspire to have a resilient society, more sustainable and better for people. Thank you very much, and we will start with the participation of Springer representative, Dr. Prashanth. Dr. Prashanth, you may start. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Florinda. Thank you for the nice introduction to the book as well. And thanks to everyone for taking your time this afternoon to join us. Resilience, yes, Florida says this is a buzzword, but always I am a fan of language, how language develops in science. When do researchers start using these words? So what I did was I looked up on Springer Link, which is a database of journals, articles, book chapters, reference work entries. And I looked up in business management collection, all the publications using the title word resilience. And I noticed that the first spike came in 2002, 2003, immediately after the dot-com bubble, as well as 9/11. So anytime the society faces a challenge which the researchers have not looked forward to, the resilience topic came up. And then the next wave came after 2020. So I quickly looked up in business management in Springer Link. Basically, we have had 8 books which we published with the title Resilience. We have had 66 journal articles and 100 chapters. This is almost half of everything we have with the word resilience in business management. And this is just after 2020. So language drives the conversation. Language makes you push towards the discussion as well. It makes you concentrate. And when Florinda came to me with this proposal, and we have already worked before, right? So I knew that you come up with a very broad focus from government to health to organizations. So it was pretty obvious for us to work together. So this book brings 18 chapters, 56 authors, and I think somebody has to mute it. So. Yeah, so this book brings 18 chapters, 56 authors together, representing 25 institutions across 16 countries. That's not an easy feat to bring together, especially in times when all of you are working from home and have personally been affected, maybe some of you more affected directly from COVID's challenge and some less. But despite that, bringing all this together, so kudos to the volume editors for bringing such excellent articles, getting the reviews done, and making sure there's a nice volume which we can be proud of for years to come. And so far we have seen, just in mid-March, we released the book. We have had around 29 countries downloading the chapters. Over 2,300 chapter downloads already have been recorded. So people are interested. And I looked up the maps, actually. I looked up the countries which are downloading. The highest downloads come from China and Germany. So apparently there is interest in these topics, in these methods by these 2 countries, and then followed by Great Britain, US, India, and Portugal. But I can only see increasing interest in that because your chapters are really getting to the point. Of course, there are quite a few chapters on health. There is a chapter on how paper records should be digitalized. I mean, we are speaking of fundamental things which should have been obvious, right? So, but it is, I think, back to the responsibility of the researcher to inform policy on what is the right way and give the tools for doing that. And up to cyber resilience itself. We are conducting this on Zoom. We are conducting on platforms which we really didn't know existed before 2020. So we should be, actually, I see it as positive, that I wonder if there was no internet, there were no IP telephony, how would we have faced this challenge as society as well as economies? So there are quite a lot of positives. And what we see is that this is a beginning or a reprisal of a research trend which was buried under the name of VUCA all the years before COVID-19, and now resilience. As you said, Florinda, it was also climate resilience which was taken care, but we realized we need resilience in all aspects, basically. Yeah. But what I see as a publishing editor is that as organizational theorists, as management scholars, it'd be good to understand where does resistance begin and where does resilience begin. I think where resistance stops, that's where resilience begins, even for organizations, be it resistance to change their business models, change their HR practices, to their supply chain practices, climate responsibility. So if we want to move beyond the buzzword, we need to really dig down into saying, what are we doing? What are we calling? What is actually resilience? Is it financial survival or is it survival of values? And I think at the end of the day, we have to come down to that topic. Okay, when the next crisis comes, what values are we going to stick to? And be sure we'll be there to publish those things also. So thank you very much. I'll just keep it short this way, and I'll let the next speaker to take over.
Thank you for your wonderful words. And the next speaker will be now Ricardo Patriarca from Sapienza University of Rome. Ricardo, you may start, please.
Yes, so thanks Florinda for both the invitation and this presentation. So it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to contribute to this book as an author and to contribute to this event as a speaker. So it's a pleasure to see many of you also in the audience. I know I've met some of you, we met in person, digitally, and some of you I didn't have the pleasure yet to meet you, but that's an opportunity we have, and I'm really glad for that. So I mean, I would like to echo the words of Prashanth. That's what we are looking at. So it's a different word today than what we had before. Different word means different opportunities, but at the same time, it means different challenges, different risks, different things to be studied, to be researched, to be explored. And I would say that this book gives a flavor of how different authors from different parts of the world started exploring modern issues about modern systems. So we are talking about resilience and digital systems. I think that's a big challenge, that's a big milestone compared to what resilience was meant to in the past years. Let me explain. So at least in the Resilience Engineering Association, and I see Ivonne is here, resilience has been advocated as a new paradigm for safety management, for allowing the engineering a capability to withstand disruption, disturbances, criticalities after external events or on normal work. And that's why we had that spike Prashanth was mentioning in 2003. The association at that time was 2004. So, that's really linked to that idea. But why today there is the need to reframe, or at least to reflect on what resilience means? On my view, and that's what we also wrote on our chapter and on a few other papers coming out at the moment, we are now experiencing a different type of systems to be studied. So before 1950, we normally thought of like technical systems as the focus of risk and safety analysis. I mean 1950 because after that there was the word of Triest, Edwards, that start saying, you shouldn't really look at technical system on one side and social system on the other side. You should rather look at socio-technical system altogether. And that's where resilience engineering start to work on, to create models, methods, tools, even to deal with socio-technical system issues. And that's what the bunch of scholars have done over the last years, and many of them are also in this audience. But why today we have to do something else? Because digital age means that our systems are different, because the technical part is not just technical on its own. It's not just a, an engineering part. There is also an information part that is larger and larger. So rather than talking about technical system, we should decompose the technical part into its physical part and its cyber part. So it's like the so-called cyber physical systems. And you know what? The good thing is that those CPS, cyber physical systems, increase our opportunities. So I'm now delivering this call and this meeting from actually from my car, because I had an unexpected event while driving back to Rome. So, that's thanks to our CPS. But at the same time, the usage of that technical part and that larger cyber part, creates new challenges, because the human action, when combined with the cyber part and with the physical part, are different. So ensuring resilience of modern systems is probably something more, or requires more studies than what we have done before, when we were looking at socio-technical system from, I would say, from a merely or mainly physical part of the technical component. So now we have an even more important information part and cyber part. So what should we do then? I mean, I don't have a final answer, of course, but at least my perspective is that we need to apply or extend the methods we have to make, not simply reapply them to the cyber part as we did for the physical part. No, that would be oversimplified. So we really need to do something else. We really need to look into the nitty-gritty of how cyber, physical, and human part work together, and explore that interaction, those relationships more in detail. So in our chapter, and that's a small spoiler for those of you who haven't had yet the opportunity to go through the book, in our chapter, we propose the idea of knowledge graphs and a new framework called the work as X to explore all these differences. What do they do into practice? Knowledge graphs are a way to incorporate different pieces of information, different and fragmented piece of information, as we expect we will have when we look at large systems or information system, physical system, human, organizational, team part. So there will be not necessarily structured in the same format, and there will be a huge part of information. Think about the size of data you can get from sensors, or what you can get from interviews, observation, normal work. So that start to be tricky to be managed. So that's on the knowledge graph. And we decided to pair that, or we started exploring that, combining this with a new framework to explore different varieties of work. That's called the work as X, which comes from the work of famous colleagues. And I want to mention on that Professor Eric Ulnagel and also our colleague Steve Shorrock. So they start exploring different varieties of work. We extended those ideas in the view of modern digital age, trying to build a framework that allow exploring resilient properties or resilient potentials. So that's one way. It's not the only one, I'm sure, and it's not a 100% correct way. But I'm mentioning it as an example of what I mean as the need for new tools, new approaches, new ways to extend the concept of resilience towards cyber-physical systems.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you. And now we will hear from Dr. Ivonne Herrera. She is the president of Resilience Engineering Association, and she works as senior advisor at the Norwegian Research Council. Please, Ivonne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Florinda, and congratulations to all the authors. I had the honor to write the afterwords in this document and this book. So I see my role today to give you a little curiosity of the different contributions for the actors, from the actors that are here. And basically the understanding of resilience is evolving, as changing, as some of you are presenting here. And basically what we are arguing is that resilience is the capacity to adapt to varying conditions. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be sudden or different ways. So like, for example, today Linda was talking about the COVID, and I said, okay, I don't need to mention that. And things like that, that we are adapting to things that are changing. So what I would like to highlight is the relevance of the first of the book in the European context. We have European research that is have 4 priorities for whole Europe, and one of them is creating a more resilient, inclusive, and democratic European society. And this touch many aspects that some of you have seen about it will be inclusive, and it has to work to adapt to crises and events and so on. And in terms of digital, it exists a digital strategy in terms of skills, how does the digital transformation and so on. And all these things we have experienced with the war and the pandemic and so on in our everyday life. So we see all these examples, and we see contributions from all around the world in this book. And we can divide the contributions from the different authors, and I see also some authors from Norway here. Torolav is here also. So some themes that some of the chapters are around methods and experiences on assessing resilience. Other are about the concepts, strategies, and practices around resilience in the design, development, and training. And this part is very important because in the past, resilience has been also criticized to be too academic. And then if you are already talking about development, design, and training, is how you can use in practice resilience. And also we have gone to resilience in different domains as healthcare and transportation, to resilience at a society level, how we can have a more societal resilience. And that goes in current research, it goes towards a whole society approach. How is the government and the citizens and the different organizations contributing to the resilience of the organization? So I will go a little bit around some of the areas with some of the topics that they are touched in the different chapters related to these themes. So when we see in the area of methods and experiences, we see a method that Ricardo have worked a lot, and also Eder work about the assessing the resilience potential of the organization, inspired by Professor Honagel. That is about the ability to respond, monitor, learn, and adapt. While some do models to these capabilities and these potentials, others see what are the critical knowledge regarding this potential. We have also methods that there are benefits from data science methods and data driven. There is a lot of documents, a lot of research on data. And what is the conditions from data that what you can identify conditions that affect resilience performance. So I will mention also the work that Ricardo mentioned a little bit early on the assessment methods and work as done and work as imagined, and doing these diverse parts of capabilities of resilience. So when we go into the strategies and practices on resilience, we see now different disciplines coming and different aspects coming together. And we see 2 areas that we're mentioning here is about concepts and practices related to the social capital and how the social capital in an organization can be assessed and audited. There is also the use of checklists, how checklists can be reframed in the digital context, and how we can do declutter. I don't know if you know Marie Kondo, that she goes and clean things and declutter all the unnecessary information. In aviation, we have a lot of procedures and a lot of things, and And this chapter talks about how you can reframe checklists and declutter what exists as a possibility. Now I will go to resilience in design and development and training. And what is interesting here is how it can be methods considering for the design and development of smart cities. And this is highly relevant. Now in Europe, they have selected cities around Europe that will be categorized as smart cities. And it's very nice to see, okay, how these chapters on this document are very relevant on what is happening in terms of all the Internet of the Things, all the sensors, and how we can build more resilient cities. Then we have the area of using simulation and to identify patterns of collaboration and orchestrate processes and collaboration between different roles. And I think these use digital tools to stimulate collaboration, but also to stimulate learning and reflection. And in some of these chapters, I see Turula Grotan, he's in the list of he has contributed to this work. And finally, in the part of society, sorry.
Sorry. Please.
Junto com o Selig e com o Neri?
Your microphone, please.
Acho que foi uma correria aquela viagem, né? Sim, foram para a Inglaterra também, né? Não?
Sorry.
Só Espanha?
Florinda, I assume if you click on his name, you can mute him if you organize the meeting.
Mas que fosse com o Neri com o Selig naquela... Não, então eles foram noutra missão. Outra missão. Tu fosse no Madame Protec. Eu fui em 2012 no Madame Protec para Alemanha. E depois nós fomos juntos para a Estônia, que é a IASPA. Hã?
Eduardo.
Você sabe que eu não me lembro dele nessa? Não, eu teria me lembrado se ele estivesse lá. Não. Não estava. Não. Mas teve uma oportunidade. Se ele tivesse, eu não ia esquecer.
Ativamente. Okay. Sorry, this is a technical problem.
Yeah, but this is often
Please continue.
So in the part of society resilience is the use of digital tools and knowledge management to improve resilience and to be more informed decision making. And the other one, it was also related perhaps to the PhD that was mentioned earlier. It's about intellectual capital and cultural and local characteristics that exist in an organization and how this can be used to enhance resilience. So as you see, the work that is in the books is very relevant. And if I can point out that to three different directions, some future directions from here, is to continue this transdisciplinary work that some of you have mentioned and a lot of the chapters. Embrace complexity and see how both successful and unsuccessful operations coexist, and increase industry research collaboration. I think Eder has a very good example. The idea is to put more in practice all the new knowledge regarding resilience. So with that, I congratulate all the authors and look forward to your further developments in the area.
Did you finish?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ivonne. And now we will hear from Professor Eder Henriqson from Business School of Pontifical Catholic University of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Eder, please.
So, hello everyone. It's such a great to see so many friendly faces and friends here. Thank you very much for attending this conversation this afternoon. I have few things to mention here in this process of this book. First, I think it's appropriate. This is just a perfect time to thank all the contributing authors, who many of them are here today, for accepting the invitation to contribute to this book and for bringing your insights and results from your research and from your work to this project. At the end, I think we succeeded in such a diverse sample of research on the topic of resilience in management, technology, and digital transformation. I mean, not only in terms of topics, but also in terms of nationalities and institutions engaged in this project. I think we have authors, as Prashanth already mentioned, from 16, I counted actually 17 countries. Some of the countries include Australia, Norway, England, Estonia. I remember we have people from Taiwan, from Saudi Arabia, from Greece, Vietnam, Brazil, Portugal, and many other countries, which turns this project a very international project and a sample of things going on the globe. The topic of second, we know the topic of resilience has been studied by several disciplines. It is in fact a very transdisciplinary topic. In my work, for example, I try to management and safety science, especially in the domains of aviation and oil and gas, and interlace that with resilience. Since I remember the engineering the Resilience Engineering Association here represented today by Ivonne, and thank you very much for your chapter, Ivonne, in the book. In this project, we did not intend to come up with a book solely focused on safety or any other specific topic or domain, but actually include multiple topics and multiple approach to the topic of resilience. But rather, we since the beginning of the book were very concerned on coming up with a book with focus on design, on how we design, how we construct, and how we manage socio-technical systems at micro, but also at macro levels. And that was the point, and I think we succeed on putting together such a diverse spectrum of projects related to that. Complexity, from my point of view, is ultimately defined by the residual uncertainties of any semi-intractable, if not semi-tractable system. And several managerial principles and tools that are still widely used and taught in business schools today are very much oriented to tractable kind of word, right? Which means they are constructed and they are very much applicable to fully knowable, fully measurable, fully controllable systems and situations. And this is not the kind anymore of systems we have to operate and to cope with. So dealing with the binary nature of digital system is a challenge, and it specific and more specifically in this always changing and transforming world we live in. So here is when the resistance capacity of our systems, as mentioned by Prashanth in the beginning, challenge us to move the focus into sustained adaptive capacities. And this is one important aspect, which turns the study, of course, of resilience, from my point of view, necessary, if not mandatory. I hope deeply that this book can help us to get even more connected and stimulated for future collaborations. It was a fantastic experience working with you, of course. And most importantly, I hope this book can serve to our students and our partners by offering lessons learned and directions for future research and maybe better questions. And we still have a lot in terms of challenge when it comes to incorporate resilience principles and concepts as Ivonne mentioned, in the engineering and management practices we currently have at multiple levels in our society. I would like to thank you all for this participation, and many thanks for the editors, Paulo and Florinda, for Eric Honagle for the preface, Ivonne for the afterword, and all the Springer team for this publishing and printing work, amazing work they did in this book. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eder. And now I invite all the participants in this session to put some questions to ask our speakers questions. The session is open for the discussion about resilience. Okay, some questions, comments? We have a lot of authors in this session, so probably they want to share with us something about their participation in this book, their experience, their ideas for resilience.
Florinda, if I may ask the set of authors here, you talk about resilience in organizations. You actually belong to organizations which are research institutions and higher education institutions. So if some of you can just throw in some points on what exactly do you think resilience means for your organizations? Florinda, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
So to summarize, I just wanted to know from any of you, maybe Life can answer, what is resilience for a higher education institutions organization from now onwards?
Okay. Someone to answer?
I can try from my point of view, I think from PUC, but also what I see in many higher education institutions is that, for example, the COVID situation basically, well, I think all higher education institutions are currently facing, especially those traditional higher education and research-oriented institutions are facing huge challenge in terms of business model, in terms of management model. And I think that COVID just accelerated some extreme challenges we have in terms of incorporating technologies in teaching methods, but also in terms of redefining our value as institutions for society, and based on that, structuring, the need of restructuring the architecture of resources and competences we have to cope with this changing world and this changing moment we as institutions are facing in. And then sort of the same for oil and gas, for example, where I do some of my current research nowadays. It's not higher education. The business model also is in challenge, but still a lot of technologies and transformations coming up every day experimental operations with experimental technologies every day, and it's not only about being resistance and creating resistance and defenses in the systems for coping with all of these uncertainties, but creating capacities to sustain transformation along with all of these changes. So that's my 50 cents in this question. Thank you, Prashanth.
Thank you, Eder.
Thank you. One more idea. What is resilience in higher education organizations? In a simple sentence, to me, is the capacity to adapt to the challenge. Yvonne, please.
Yes, to follow up your line of thoughts in the association, and Pedro Ferreira is here, and many people. Last year we have planned our face-to-face in-person symposium, and then we have to adapt to COVID, and it opens a big opportunity. It was challenging, but we have participants around the world, and from Africa, and from Argentina, and from countries that never were attending those symposiums. From Argentina, we have very few people attending. Now we have more people attending, and now it creates a new normal. The hybrid is the new possibility. It's more inclusive and new ways of coping. Of course, there are some challenges associated and some positive and negative things all together, but there are new ways of collaborating and cooperating. And we have also this a global course that Tarcísio is organizing on resilience, and then it's not only the resources from one country, but now you have a pool of people working together and collaborating. So I think it's both of them, and yeah, we have the possibility to interact even from home with all of you. So
okay, thank you. More comments or questions from all the participants?
Hello, everyone. Pedro speaking. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm on the move, but I wanted to drop in anyway. And just on the question going around, if I understand it correctly, for higher education in particular, well, for all education for that matter, there's a growing need to bring back creativity into it. Without creativity, there is no learning, and without learning, there is no resilience. So perhaps before thinking about resilience itself, there's a lot of things that need to be considered and changed. There's a profound transformation that I think is needed, particularly what regards education and not just higher education.
Thank you. Thank you, Pedro. More questions?
Yes, a comment. According to research from Germany, it says that medical knowledge is doubling every 73rd day. So after 73 days, it's double the volume, which means that the institutional framework probably has to at least adapt. It might be resilient and it might be resistant. And the outcome, if it's too resistant, is what a colleague of mine at University of Lund calls institutional failure, or it might also be called functional stupidity.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Professor Leif. And more comments or questions? I have a question from my colleague that is participating in the room. Okay, you'll speak.
Yes, if you. Okay, hello. I was invited by Florinda. I work with her here at the university. I'm from computer science, and following on this topic of assessing resilience, which is in fact, I'm being introduced to this community as we speak, but I find it, as far as I've seen, very interesting. But looking in the last comment, I see, for example, in the area of computer science, of IT teaching at various levels, including university, a trend of leaving out the professors away. So new ways to teach coding, for example, with 0 professors, okay? Leveraging a lot of gaming tools, a lot of online and hybrid methods, a lot of peer-to-peer, and peers are students, peer-to-peer collaboration, various different ways that I've been looking at, and I find interesting, and it poses challenges for this area already today and in the coming future. So that's something that I'm actually interested in.
Okay, thank you very much. What do you think about that? Are there comments? Professor Leif, you are not.
You need to unmute, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, what I see is that we have some very interesting companies in the motor sector. We once had General Motors and Ford, then Toyota became the largest motor company in the world. And which one is the equivalent regarding education and higher learning? Which is the new Tesla of the academical society?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question for the future.
Yes.
Yes.
And,
for our kids.
And a question: are there cultures more resilient than others, or countries more resilient than others? What do you think for all the participants?
Well, I'm an old student from Berkeley, and there we had learned that we have to turn most of the question upside down and search for the new angles and new perspectives.
Yes. Okay, some more comments?
Well, I mean, looking here from the, at least my university experience, some of us are trying to reinvent the way we teach in this area of technology and computer science. And we are facing huge resistance, namely from my department, for example.
There are many people.
Huge resistance, which is interesting because I like this type of challenges myself.
Okay, okay.
Florinda, if I may comment on your question, whether countries, I think at the end of the day, it depends on how the culture has evolved, or society or country has evolved. You know, European countries have never faced actually colonization, for example. So certainty was kind of given there, the leadership was given. And then you go to countries which were actually colonized, let's say, and have become free from that. The systems are yet to be perfected, etc. So people there actually, for them, uncertainty is a daily living thing. You know, for us in Europe, if the train doesn't run 5 minutes on time, you know, or it goes late, it's a disaster, you know. So I think there's nothing like a cultural or a country-wise specificity. It's basically on how reliable we think our systems are, which we work with, and how and when we stop innovating. The day we stop innovating, that's when the danger becomes that we will not be resilient, right? So most of these innovations which have helped during COVID-19 did not come from Europe.
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
So the question would be that are there countries and societies which have taken things for granted? You know, so just a minor comment from a publisher.
More comments?
Yes, I think it would be very interesting also to see if the young generation is more resilient than the senior generations.
Yeah.
It's not only a cultural issue, it's also a kind of complacency dimension in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Age range issue.
More comments? So these capacities or resilience in some cultures, in some countries, could help the organizations of these countries to be more agile, more competitive, or not?
So I would like to share some experience this morning. It was a midterm review of ongoing project collaboration Japan and Europe on the area of ICT for resilient, safe, and secure societies. And the point is that it's not like one country or one culture that has all the answers, but how we can learn from each other. And in Europe, there is a lot of interest on learning from countries with high experience for other areas, and like, for example, in Japan, and how you educate children and vulnerable groups. So everyone, this whole society approach is how everyone can contribute to resilience, resilient society, and learning across different countries is one of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, talking on that topic, Japan is organizing since 26 years a conference called TOPOS, which is a kind of bar or meeting space for higher understanding. And it's coming, among others, from Nonaka and Noboru Kono. So
yes.
Search on TOPOS, T-O-P-O-S, and annual meetings on related topics of what we are talking about. I do think that perhaps the most interesting nations to learn us will be African nations.
Why?
Because they are the young and perhaps searching for a new way of operating. Yeah. As Prashanth was saying earlier, the old nations have already decided it should be done this way. Yes. And therefore it's not renewing, it's just resisting.
Yes. And now they have a lot of challenges, like the food crisis and the other crises that will be the biggest challenges.
Notice it's not the food crisis, it's a political crisis.
Yes, yeah. yes, a political crisis, yes.
The food is there. That's the
food. Yes.
Food is there, but the system doesn't allow the food to be distributed.
Yes, yes. So, more comments or questions? We will finish our session, but if you have some more comments or questions, we have some minutes more.
I was curious about what Prashanth was referring to, the knowledge maps. Have you seen any knowledge maps related to the global map of resilience that you could share with us? Any link?
You mean the download maps,
Yeah.
basically. I will get that to you. We have a huge database of statistics I can pull out on any keyword. So yeah, if any of you want to do some bibliometric research, drop me a line and we'll give you access to the data for you.
Yeah, one line would be, where do you have the smartest people in the world?
Right here in the call.
It's a good idea. So if there are no more questions or comments, we will finish our session. I want to thank to all the participants, all the speakers. I think we are motivated to learn more about resilience, to apply resilience in our companies, in our universities, in our associations, in all the places, because the world is in a transformation, and we need to have resilient organizations then can be adapted, then can be prepared to the challenge, to the everyday challenge. Thank you for your participation. I hope to see you next year with another book that is in preparation. And be resilient and be happy in your lives. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Thank you, all the participants, all the authors, editors, and so on. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Ciao, Florinda. Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Ricardo, bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice evening.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.